The perfect trade for the Seattle Mariners. Let's talk about it. So as we know, there are tons of trades that get put out into the baseball world when the offseason starts. And there are a few brutal ones that come out even from MLB.com, as you can see by this one on your screen, where somehow the Phillies get Nolan Arenado, Ryan Helsley, Emerson Hancock, and cash, and the Mariners give up Lazaro Montes, Emerson Hancock, and only to get Alec Bohm in return. So there are trades like that that really just make your head spin and be like, why does that make any sense for a certain team? The Phillies are getting an absolute snag of a deal for giving up 2 prospects, while the Mariners are getting Alec Bohm for one of their top prospects and Emerson Hancock. But there is a trade that I want to go over in this video that may be a little far-fetched, but I don't think is really out of the equation, only because it is a 3-team trade, which is always very difficult to pull off. But I think this is something the Mariners should really consider if this is something that would be on the table. And I believe this was from a Jeff Passan article. I'm not 100%, but I know it's from some kind of ESPN article, so I'm sorry if I'm giving credit to the wrong person. But basically, the trade consists of the Philadelphia Phillies trade third baseman Alec Bohm to the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners deal Luis Castillo and Harry Ford to the Chicago Cubs, and the Cubs send Cody Bellinger to the Phillies and second baseman Nico Hoerner to the Mariners. So yes, while this is a very complicated trade, only because 3-team trades are very difficult to pull off and they don't really happen that often, this is definitely something that is very intriguing for Mariner fans. But either way, there is a ton of reasons why this makes perfect sense for the Seattle Mariners to go out and do if this was something that they could end up pulling off. To simplify it a little bit, essentially the Mariners would be giving out Luis Castillo and Harry Ford and get in return Alec Bohm and Nico Hoerner. Now, I definitely think one thing this article leaves out is the fact that there's probably going to be a few more players intertwined in this, a few more prospects especially, that would have to go on to this deal to get both teams engaged. But let's start off with the obvious, and if the Mariners were to get rid of Luis Castillo in this deal, they would actually end up saving money because Nico Hoerner is owed about a little short of $11.7 million in 2025, while Alec Bohm is estimated to make $8.1 million in arbitration this year. So between the two, they'd be making a little bit less than $20 million, while Luis Castillo alone in 2025 is making about $21.6 million. So not a huge gap there, but definitely saving a little bit of money in terms of this trade. And I feel like this goes without saying, but this is filling 2 major holes that the Seattle Mariners have going into the 2025 season, and that is at second base and third base. Now I'm going to go into their stats a little bit later in the video, but basically Bohm and Hoerner add 2 major components that the Seattle Mariners lineup is really missing. But let's start off by talking a little bit about Luis Castillo, and as we know, he has the no trade clause. But this is something that he can waiver if he feels like another team is a better fit and essentially agrees with the Seattle Mariners that it is okay if they trade him there. But there is one problem that I have with getting rid of Luis Castillo, and that is also something I'm talking about a little later. But one thing that really bothers me about getting rid of Luis Castillo is just his durability. Just listen to how many games he started in the past 4 seasons: 33, 25, 33, and 30. So Luis Castillo, knock on wood, obviously for his case, is that he is a very healthy starting pitcher who pitches in a lot of games. He has pitched a minimum of 150 innings in 6 MLB seasons. So that is one big problem that I have, is that Luis Castillo, is going to go out there and give you tons of innings. And the obvious that he is a very good pitcher. He did have a off year last year, but he is a solid pitcher as well. But let's get into a little bit of the 2 pieces that the Seattle Mariners would be getting from this trade, and that is Alec Bohm and Nico Hoerner, who will both be free agents after the 2026 season. So you have these players for 2 seasons. And it really seems like the Philadelphia Phillies are really trying to get rid of Alec Bohm. He has been brought up a ton this offseason in potential trades for, maybe someone like Garrett Crochet, who knows, but he has been brought up a lot. But let's get into the first thing that makes these 2 players unique and arguably very similar, especially from the offensive side. Alec Bohm has a little bit more power than Nico Hoerner does, but neither one of them are really considered power hitters. They are considered very high average players as well as low strikeout players. Alec Bohm has a career 17.9% K rate, and he has not gone above 17.4% in 2022, 2023, or 2024. Same thing with Nico Hoerner, who has a 12% K rate, and he really has never gone above 19%. He only did that once in his career. Other than that, he's never gone over 14.7%. As well as the fact that Alec Bohm is a 277 career hitter, as well as Nico Hoerner is a 278. So both of these guys have very low strikeout percentages and very high batting averages, which to start is definitely something that the Seattle Mariners are missing in their lineup. There are a few guys that you can kind of hope for that they're going to hit about 280 or higher, but besides that, they really do not have too many high average guys. As we do know a little bit about Alec Bohm is that he does have a few clubhouse problems. Apparently, he just needs to grow up a little bit, according to multiple sources. But nonetheless, they are both very solid offensive pieces to add to this lineup, as well as the fact they are both very defensive first players. In 2024, Nico Hoerner ranked 4th amongst second basemen in a minimum of 500 innings played at the position, with a 10 outs above average. While Alec Bohm, on the other hand, ranked 5th in terms of outs above average in terms of third basemen who have played a minimum of 500 innings at the position last year, with a 4 outs above average. To kind of give you a better sense of the defense, Josh Rojas had a 6 outs above average, so he was a little bit better than Alec Bohm last year defensively. But in terms of Bohm Mahomes bat, he does a lot better than Josh Rojas, so that would just cancel itself out in the long run. But now to discuss a little bit of an issue, and that is if they do get rid of Luis Castillo, there is a very obvious hole in the starting rotation. There are a few routes they can go for this, but there is one that I kind of want to hone in on, and it is something that has been talked about a lot, and there has been a few rumors that the Mariners are definitely going to try and pursue him. And that is a name you have all heard before, and that is Roki Sasaki. So realistically, if this trade were to be in the Seattle Mariners' plans, and obviously getting rid of Luis Castillo would bring in a solid haul back of bats that we need, I think they really have to consider what Roki Sasaki will do in his first season in Major League Baseball. Because I had discussed this in a previous video, but there is some concerns among scouts that he will not be able to pitch too many innings in his first year. And like I said earlier in the video, Luis Castillo pitches a ton of innings throughout the season, and Roki Sasaki, if he comes in only pitching, 100 innings in his first year, that is going to be a problem for the Mariners. Especially with these slight concerns of Brian Wu not being able to really put together a full healthy season yet, this is definitely a concern if you now have two of those guys that will not be able to get you 150 innings in a season. And yes, you obviously most likely will still have Emerson Hancock, but in my personal opinion, I don't know if he's really ever going to be a MLB ready, legit player. I think he's kind of in that 4A group right now. He is a solid player, but he really is just very inconsistent. So yes, this trade may be far-fetched, but this is something extremely realistic that Seattle Mariners can pull off, and they wouldn't have to waste any money either. As we know by that haunting 16 million number that we heard, this would actually give them an extra million to spend in free agency, or to obviously take on another contract from a trade. But in terms of moving the needle, this is definitely something that moves the needle for the Seattle Mariners and makes them better going into 2025 as well as 2026, because you have both of these players through those two seasons. But I figured I'd bring this trade up because this has probably been one of the best trades. While a little bit far-fetched with the three teams, it is definitely one of the best trades that I've seen that makes the Mariners better in 2025. But please let me know what you guys think of this trade, and if this is something you would love the Seattle Mariners to do, as well as go get Sasaki in order to fill that fifth rotation spot. Otherwise, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.